Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 64 of Velocity Lake, the Planet Coaster series in which I build a theme park called Velocity Lake and upload videos of that construction to YouTube. And we are starting off right where we left off last week. I feel like I start a lot of the episodes off like that, don't I? We're picking up exactly where we left off because how else would you start it, I guess? But regardless, we're going to plow on anyway. Last episode, we placed the two flat rides back here, the top spin ride that I've called Ripsaw Revenge, as well as the Enterprise ride, which I've called Enterprise 2. Is it called Enterprise in this game? It was definitely called Enterprise in the Roller Coaster Tycoon game, but I don't know if it's called something else, like maybe Revolution or something. Anyway, it's called Enterprise 2 in this park because it's kind of like the spiritual sequel to Enterprise at Alton Towers, which is one of the longest serving attractions at the park that's still operating. And Alton Towers, it's always had a bit of a special place in my heart because it's always been the main theme park that I visited throughout my childhood. Like, I guess my actual local theme park growing up was Wicksteed Park, but that's very small and rubbish. It's only got like one roller coaster and it's quite small. Alton Towers is the biggest, it's like the closest big park that I've been to, and it's one of the only parks I've been to on more than one occasion. In fact, in terms of theme parks I visited more than once, I think it is literally only Alton Towers and Wicksteed Park that I visited more than once. And Drayton Manor, actually. In fact, Drayton Manor, I think, is more local to my childhood home than Alton Towers is. But again, it's not as good. Like, it's only really good. I think it's only got one roller coaster now. Like, it used to have a couple of really good roller coasters. Like, it had G-Force, which was a X Infinity or something like that. It's like a rare roller coaster type now. And it had the Shockwave stand-up coaster, and it had the Ben 10 roller coaster, which is like a Vekoma family boomerang. I'm pretty sure it's a Vekoma coaster, but it's a family boomerang coaster. And they got rid of G-Force because it was too costly to maintain, which is a real shame because it was a really good ride. I think it was probably my favorite ride at Drayton Manor, aside from Shockwave, but it's gone now. So that's sad times all round. This is kind of a weird start to the commentary, but yes, Alton Towers, my local theme park. I've talked about it a lot. It's kind of like the recurring subject that comes up in my Planet Coaster commentaries because, again, I visited the park so often compared to any other theme park that it's often my frame of reference when designing theme park stuff in this game. And that is the long answer as to why the Enterprise ride here is called Enterprise 2. Of course, you wouldn't know it was called Enterprise 2, and you wouldn't know that this ride was called Ripsaw Revenge because right now there's no signage telling guests what the rides are called until right now. That's what we're doing here. I'm building this little custom sign out of art shapes, and I guess we're colouring the ride as well so it matches the actual fencing for the queue line. We're going to put a little custom sign up to kind of make it look a bit more standout, and obviously guests will then know what it is. I guess it's not that essential that it's got a big sign because if they're looking at a map and there's a top spin ride that says this is called Ripsaw Revenge and they get here, it's probably not going to take a Sherlock Holmes to realise, this is probably Ripsaw Revenge because it corresponds to the top spin on the map. I don't know. But that's it's got a sign, basically. I don't know what you guys want, right? I'm just trying my best here, guys. Now, you may notice that Ripsaw Revenge has curbing and fencing around its queue line. It looks generally fairly complete for a theme park ride. We need to put some lighting in and, I guess, put some curbing along the main path along its front, but that's it. Look over at Enterprise 2. It's a different story. Not only does it not have a sign, which is now, what this ride has, but it's also got no real work done to its queue line. It's got no fencing. It's got no curbing. It's really a real mess. It's very incomplete. So we're going to be doing that in this episode, as well as obviously finishing the Ripsaw Revenge ride. We're going to be putting some more fencing around the back of the park because there are still some gaps in that hedge. I think between the little Stonecutter's secret tunnel that goes underneath the B&M Gigas lift hill and one of the access gates for the service road, there's nothing, so we need to fence in that in some way, and we're going to be building like a custom fence. I think it's a really, really easy custom fence, but it came out looking pretty unique. Like, the untrained eye might assume it's a mod, like a Theme Maker's Toolkit item, and it's very easy to achieve, so you guys are getting that review of attention. You guys are going to look forward to that, hopefully. Why not? Whilst we're shamelessly plugging, if you're enjoying this series and enjoying this video, which you're probably not, but if you are, then why not leave a little like down below. Here you can see me extending the hedge just here. Now, I said this before when I built the hedge around the secret tunnel, but I'll quickly recap. We're not going to have, that diamond topper there. We're not going to have that as frequently as it currently is, but it's much, much easier to just have it on all of them so we can just clone it across really quickly. And then once it's all placed, we can then just delete as appropriate to get the frequency we want, just because if I was going to place the hedge and then place the diamond toppers on top, it would be quite finicky because we have to make sure they're all at the same height and they're all in the same relative depth within the rest of the hedge, and it would be very hard to get it all looking uniform. So it's much easier to do it where you just clone every single piece to have that diamond and then delete as appropriate once it's placed. We're going to place another service fence just there. I just noticed there's going to be there's a gap in the hedge where the service road needs to get to the park, so we'll put another service gate in just here, which we have now done, which is very easy gates to build. If you're looking for ways to build a gate in this game, I just use those big fence pieces, some of the iron greebling pieces to kind of give the illusion of hinges and handles, and it's, for very relatively little work, it's a pretty convincing looking gate. And then we can just extend this ornate fence to the edge of the hedge, just there. Hey, that rhymed. I'm a poet and I didn't realise it. And then we can just close up some of the gaps that are happening along the back of the hedge. Like, it looks fine from the front, but around the back, the angles are a bit more obtuse rather than acute. So there's a few gaps here and there, so I can just close those off as appropriate. But we are now moved on to what I was mentioning earlier, that we're going to put a custom... I really hope we are now, because we started working on this part of the park. So I'm usually in these commentaries, I'm like, right, it looks like we're now in this part of the park. I know what I did here, so I'm going to start talking about it. And then I'll start trying to stall for time as I begin to ramp up the topic. And then I realize that actually I'm not doing that thing. I'm doing something completely different, which as it turns out is now what I'm doing. It's just as well I kind of went off on this little tangent just here, but that's where we're going to be placing that custom fence just there in that little gap. And now we've cross-faded off to something else. I mean, I edit these videos together and get all the footage done, and then I go back and do all the commentary, so I don't really remember exactly how it's all edited. Hence why I assumed I was about to start building that fence, so I started getting ready to do the commentary on that topic, and now we've moved along. But luckily it was fine in this instance, because I managed to just steer my way haphazardly into another topic entirely. So was there a moral to this story? I don't know. So as you can see, I did mention earlier I wanted to do some fencing and curbing for this Enterprise ride here, so that's what we're doing here. I'm not placing a custom fence around the ride itself, in that we're going to use the in-game auto-generated fences, because unlike the Ripsaw Revenge, here's a little real-time Tegid cam-ish view, just here to show you what it looks like. Unlike the Ripsaw Revenge, which has a completely square footprint and thus is very easy to build a custom fence for, this ride has a completely round footprint, and it's very, very hard to build fences that form perfect circles. Quite difficult, but obviously it's very easy to do with the custom fence tool, as in, like, the auto fence that comes with the path tool in this game. So that's why I opted for the lazy approach. We're getting towards the end of the series, guys. What are we on? We're on episode 64. There's only 5 more episodes left in Velocity Lake before it's done. There'll obviously be 1 or 2 episodes after episode 69, which just goes over kind of an overview of the park. Because I wanted to show you guys, you guys want to see the POVs, and also because I didn't want episode 69 to be the swan song for Velocity Lake. Like, the comments would just be, 69, nice, funny number. And that would be the legacy of episode 69. So let's just finish it on episode 70, because we got that reason I just stated, and also because 70, while, no less significant than like 47 or 32, it feels like a significant number, something to do with being a multiple of 10, I guess. And 7, lucky number in some cultures, so felt like a better number to round the series off on. So episode 70 is my planned final episode for Velocity Lake. And then, of course, we'll be starting work on the new theme park, which at the moment has got the working title of Loopy Lagoon. I may have changed that by the time this commentary goes out. I'm currently recording this on the 31st of August, so ancient history for you guys. But my life, the way my life works, I just have to do these commentaries well in advance, because it's very hard to record them on the week or day they're published, because my work-life schedule is so out of whack that some weeks I just won't have any time whatsoever to do anything for YouTube. Other weeks I've got lots of free time, such as this week, so I'm just doing a little batch of Planet Coaster commentaries to get myself set up for the next few weeks. And So yeah, like I say, because it's so long ago for you guys, I may have come up with a different working title. I may have even scrapped the park I've currently done work for. Like I've started building the sequel to Velocity Lake, and I may have scrapped that entirely. Maybe I'm doing a Planet Zoo series now. Who knows? Maybe I've just had the mental breakdown that was definitely coming up, and now I'm just making artwork out of my own feces on a prison cell wall. The future, it's unpredictable. There's a million things that could be happening in life right now. So I don't know, was there a lesson to be learned? I don't know. Okay, so you can see me love how now I'm just trying to awkwardly move on from that. But yeah, I tried to make the rest of the fence for the queue line of this ride look similar to the actual fence of the ride footprint itself, and the easiest way of doing that was with the generic looking black railing fence. And obviously whilst it looks different to the ride fence as in the footprint of the ride fence, I think it looks similar enough where at a distance it looks like it blends quite well. And I guess it could be believable that a different company built the fence for the queue line for the ride and the actual people that manufacture the ride. I don't know who makes this kind of ride. B&M, Intamin, I have no idea who makes it, but the company that built it may have they probably placed the fence when they built it, and it was left to our own devices to build the rest of the fencing. I don't know. I think I get a bit caught in the lore of this park a bit too much. Like, it doesn't really matter that the fence looks slightly different, but I've got to think of something to talk about in these commentaries, I guess. So that's what you get: the disparity of fences in rides. What a spellbinding topic. Whatever. Let's just move on. I don't like this ride. Great sentences there. No, I've been on this ride in real life. The real life counterpart that I've been on is the Enterprise ride at Alton Towers, and it's really fun initially. Like, if you guys have never seen those rides or have ever seen like what they are, you're sitting inside those little pods just there, and then it's like a Ferris wheel, but it goes really, really fast. So when you're on the top of the circle, you're actually upside down. And what's cool about it is that you're in those pods, but within the pod, there are no seatbelts. You are just being held in your seat by centripetal force. So it's kind of a weird sensation. And it's really, really fun at first. But then it keeps going, and then you start to get a bit nauseous. I feel really sick, and the blood starts leaving your head. And then by the end, you just feel horrible, and you get off the ride, and you just want to have a lie down. So, I don't know. I like it for the first. I wish it would just go, and then as soon as it does the loopy thing, maybe do like 5 or 6 rotations, and then it just ends. And I can leave with a happy memory of the ride. I used to really like it when I was younger. When I was, I don't know, year 8, which is like, 12, 13, I think. It's a long time ago. I liked it then. And I think as I got older, I've become a bit more weak-stomached. I just can't really seem to handle it anymore. But then again, I haven't been to Alton Towers for years. Like, when was the last time I went to Alton Towers? I know I was a teenager, I think. No, I think it was the year of the very tragic Smiler crash. It was that year because it was a good time to visit the park because it was completely desolate. So there was no queues for anything. Obviously, the circumstances and the reason that was the case was obviously not a good thing. But that was the last time I went, and I can't remember when that happened, but it was a little while ago now. So I'm due another visit. Like, I've never been on the Smiler because obviously last time I went it was closed for obvious reasons, and the Wicker Man wasn't there either. So, there's 2 roller coasters I've not been on in Alton Towers, and I would like to go on them at some point. And I'd like that to be Beth is my girlfriend who's very afraid of roller coasters, and I'd like that to be her introduction to big kid rides. She's afraid of roller coasters, but she's never been on a roller coaster. Like, I think the biggest one she's been on was like one of those crappy junior coasters in some little family-run theme park that doesn't really qualify as a real roller coaster. So I thought, you know what? It's probably all in your head. Let's just go on a roller coaster, and you'll be terrified. But then once you go on it, you'll love it, because that's what happened to me. I was deathly afraid of roller coasters. I was the biggest wimp when it came to roller coasters. I wouldn't go on anything. And then it was my 13th birthday party, and I was like, you know what? I want to go to Alton Towers. I'm 13 now. I'm a man. I'm going to face my fears. So I went on Nemesis, like the biggest roller coaster in Alton Towers. And I was like terrified when I was queuing for it, because for those that have never been to Alton Towers, on Nemesis, there's like a helix. The gimmick with well, I guess all of Alton Towers, that they're not allowed to build above the tree line. So they have to build all of their roller coasters in giant canyons. So Nemesis is just in this big crater. So half the ride is above ground, right close to the surface level of the ground. Like it's very much a terrain coaster. And then half of it is just underground. It's amazing. But as it transitions from kind of above ground to underground, it does this helix, and it goes right next to one of the footpaths. Like there's this big fence, obviously, to stop you being able to touch the riders and, you know, rip your hand off in the process as it goes down this helix. But you can stand right to that fence, and the rider's feet come within inches of that fence. So as the train whooshes around that helix really, really fast, it creates this gale storm like strength wind, and it really kind of knocks out, oh my god, this is a really, really powerful and fast ride. And I remember the first time I experienced that, I was just like, nope. This is when I was like, I don't know, 11 or something. When I first went to Alton Towers, I didn't go on anything. But this time I was like, you know what? I literally sprinted past that path. Like you have to go past that sort of helix path to get to the entrance of Nemesis's queue, and I literally sprinted past. Like I'm not even gonna get into my head how fast this ride is. I'm not going to look at the track. I'm just gonna run to the entrance, get on the train, and once you're locked in and the train sets off, you're like, oh my god, this is it. I can scream and kick and shout all I want. I ain't getting off this ride now. And as you chuck up that lift hill, I was like literally bricking it. But I was like, you know what? This is it. This is why we're here. This is why we're here. And as soon as the ride took its first drop, it was great. I loved it. And Nemesis to this day is my favorite roller coaster because it's a really, really good roller coaster. I guess there's no way of objectively measuring roller coasters, but I know there are better roller coasters, and I've probably been on ones that are considered better by the coaster community. But I think Nemesis, it's just a really, really, really good roller coaster in its own right, and it's just that connection. You know, it was my first big kid roller coaster, and I felt like I was conquering something with it. And the theming is great, the music's great, the fact that it is all underground and it's and you're underneath the track, so your feet are the things that get near the ground. It's just a great ride. 10 out of 10. There are other rides I like as well, obviously, but Nemesis is my favorite one at Alton Towers. I do think, and that's all I had to say about that, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna take Beth there, and she's gonna object to everything, I bet, but I'm gonna force her to go on the rides nonetheless because it'll be a good experience, I think. I'll probably bring my some other friends with me just in case that it turns out no, she actually hated it all along, and I don't want to then just spend the rest of the day walking around the park. Like there's like a garden in Alton Towers. You could just walk around. I don't want to spend the whole day doing that, so I'm going to bring some other friends. Yeah, do you guys remember Off the Hook, that legendary series I haven't uploaded to for literal years now? But yeah, you got Tupper, you got Coops. I'll probably bring them along, and we can just go on the rides together if Beth doesn't want to go on anything else. Because I'm a bad partner, probably. But yeah, that's my plan. So maybe I'll vlog it. Maybe it'd be good to do a little IRL vlog at Alton Towers. I'll probably have to get one of those GoPro things that you can strap to your chest so I can sneak a camera onto the rides and give commentary as we go on and record the audio of Beth probably whimpering in fear next to me. I love how the thought of that would probably make most people concerned. So, but in me, it just sends me into hysterics, which don't know what that says about our relationship. Maybe I like to think it's a good thing that we can, laugh at each other's pain. I'm going to stop digging a hole for myself now and move on to whatever we're doing now. I mean, we built the fence. I noticed I was building it on screen, but I was well in the middle of my story about Nemesis at that point, so I didn't really address it. But did you see it? Did you see it get built? I used the vintage pack white barrier fence and just sort of stacked it on top of each other, leaving no gap, and it created a nice sort of custom-looking wooden fence. At least I think it was from the vintage pack. Like, I know it came out with the vintage pack, but it could have been one of those items that got added with the release of a DLC, but it was just part of the stock game. Like, Frontier do that. I think they've done that with pretty much every DLC, every major DLC for Planet Coaster, where they've released all the DLC parts into the game, but they've thrown in a few new parts for the people that don't want to buy the DLC, basically. And I think I'm not sure if it was one of those freebie parts or if it was one of the ones that actually comes with the DLC. I'm leaning more on the side that it probably was in the DLC rather than being in the free game, the base game. But I could be wrong. Who knows? There probably might be some historians in the comments that can tell me. I don't really care, to be honest. So I'm going to move along to talking about this. The lighting. This whole part of the park, it was a bit dark. I noticed that I've been neglecting putting lights in because I've said before that I really don't like lighting up the park. I think it's quite tedious and it's not really that fun because you're so limited. The palette you have in terms of lights that actually provide ambient illumination is quite narrow. A lot of the lights in this game don't actually light up anything around them, so it's a bit annoying when you're trying to do themed areas, but you have to use those gothic street lamps half the time. But I thought, enough is enough. I've been putting this off for long enough. We probably should just bite the bullet and light up that part of the park, but we've now done that, so I guess I don't need to carry on talking about it any longer and bore myself at the prospect of, at the thought of doing lighting. I think at the moment I'm just, scouting the area, trying to think if there's any parts of the park that I've missed or anything that needs doing. But I think we've got a nice big shot overview of Velocity Lake just there. I think that's a good place to end the episode. We've done the flat rides now. The back of the park's all done. It's all lit up. We can get the end screen on. As you can see, left-hand side is a link to the full Velocity Lake playlist. The right-hand side is a video chosen for you by YouTube's recommendation algorithm based on your viewing habits. In the description you'll find links to other things like social media, merchandise, etc. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.